When Dragon Ball had its huge resurgence back in 2013, people had 3 things on their minds specifically. Who's the original Super Saiyan God? What are the other universes like? And what the hell is God Ki? And luckily for us, we got answers to all 3 of those questions. The concept of the original Super Saiyan God was seemingly retconned out of existence by Toriyama. He's not mentioned in the Dragon Ball Super version of the events, and even in his interview regarding the original Super Saiyan and the original Super Saiyan God, Toriyama mentions Yamoshi, who in that interview is called the original Super Saiyan, who is trying to create a new savior with his spirit called the Super Saiyan God. Yamoshi is not a Super Saiyan God. It's been so long now. People have to know this. As for the other universes, we got the answer to them in the form of 2 arcs, really. Kind of 3 if you think about it. The Destroyer Tournament, or whatever you want to call it, God of Destruction Tournament, Universe 6 Tournament is what I tend to call it, gives us a little insight into Universe 6, the parallel universe to Universe 7. Then in the Goku Black arc, which is actually called the Future Trunks arc, we get insights into Universe 10 with Gawas and Zamasu, and that's basically it, but it's a little bit of insight into the other gods of another universe. Pretty cool. And then, of course, the Tournament of Power gives us our biggest glimpse by revealing every God of Destruction, every Kaioshin, every angel, and the top 10 mortal fighters in 7 of the other remaining 11 universes. So, all things considered, not bad. And we eventually found out what God Ki is. It's bullshit. Just think about this for a second. In concept, God Ki is incredibly cool. It ascends the user to the power of the gods, not those gods, these gods. So back in like 2013, 2014, everyone was speculating about God Ki, its usage, who was gonna get it, who wasn't, how it was gonna change the dynamic of Dragon Ball going forward, because it seemed like Dragon Ball was here to stay, at least for a little bit. And you have to admit, being in 2014 and thinking, man, could the human fighters actually catch up to the Saiyans via God Ki? Could this be a gap closer in terms of power across the cast in the series? Thinking of God Ki 10 Shinhan with 3 Days Grace playing in the background, doing Shinki Kohos with all 4 arms at the same time, bang, bang, bang. I mean, that's just raw as hell, but it didn't happen. And what we got instead was something not great. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think it's great. So in 2015, Resurrection of F comes out. And just so you know, this is only 3 months before Dragon Ball Super, and it only airs in the US after Dragon Ball Super already started in Japan. That's how short the time span between Resurrection F and Dragon Ball Super is, by the way. But more importantly than that, Goku and Vegeta get new forms from training with Whis that are soaked in God Ki. This is the strongest form we've ever seen in the series, Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan. It wasn't called Super Saiyan Blue at the time, but you know what I mean. The thing is, Frieza, who was able to not only compete with them, people forget this, was stronger than them, just had a stamina issue, didn't have God Ki. He had 4 months of training and normal-ass basic ki. Now, this might be one of the craziest decisions of all time, because it seems almost comically easy, if you're gonna give him that big of a power-up, to just say he figured out God Ki naturally on his own. Call him a mutant again, call him whatever you need to cope and make a joke about it, but it feels so criminally easy to give him God Ki that I have to feel it was a deliberate choice not to give him God Ki in this form, in his golden form, that is. So after watching this movie and knowing you're getting a series immediately after, you think, okay, well, God Ki isn't really as big of a deal as we thought it was, but maybe it could still be used as a way to catch up the cast, right? What are the main cast doing besides Goku and Vegeta at this point? Well, Yamcha is stuck in gag character hell, Ten Shinhan is treated like garbage despite being an active and training martial artist, and Krillin is a fucking cop. So they're not doing that much in terms of God Ki and catching up their power. Toei tried to give Krillin this episode between the Goku Black arc and the Tournament of Power, but clearly, because Toriyama decided every elimination in the Tournament of Power, he had no interest in giving Krillin some sort of power-up or really big moment in the tournament. So this was just Toei trying to throw a bone towards Krillin fans, when in reality, Toriyama was gonna rip it right out of their mouths again anyway in the few weeks. If we go to the alien side of the main cast, it's better for them in terms of catching up, but worse in terms of God Ki. And actually, quick addendum, I actually forgot this in the video. This is not a joke. It's not better for all of the alien side of the cast, because Goten and Trunks are so forgotten that not only do they not catch up to the main cast in any capacity, they also were so left behind, they were left at their ages in the Buu saga. And oh, you may be saying, but they're Saiyan biology. This was so explained. Obviously, they explained it now. It's all good. Why the hell is Marin still a toddler in Dragon Ball Super when she's supposed to have aged up by like 4 years at that point at least? Come on now, let's be a little reasonable. They left them as kids and didn't change the designs. Maybe they forgot, maybe there's some other reason, but it's stupid and it leads to them still being left behind and definitely leads to them not having God Ki, which is the main point of this video. Now let's jump back to the original recording though, where I'm about to talk about Piccolo. Piccolo gets 2 new transformations, one of which is derived from Shenron and seems tied both to his Namekian heritage and his other half being Kami. And guess what it doesn't have? God Ki, despite half of him being God. Okay, cool. Orange Piccolo's a Giga Chad. I like Orange Piccolo a lot. I actually really love that form. I made a video about it because I like it so much. But Orange Piccolo and Piccolo are just not God Ki forms, and they're supposed to be like these gap closers. Well, mainly Orange Piccolo. Piccolo is kind of weak, actually. But Orange Piccolo is a gap closer between Piccolo and Goku, apparently. He's supposed to be rivaling Goku in whatever capacity that means. Obviously, it's less than Ultra Instinct, but Super Saiyan Blue level? Yeah, it's seemingly likely. Same with the androids, Gamma 1 and 2. They're rivaling Goku and Vegeta. That's clearly not talking about them in terms of anything else besides at least Super Saiyan Blue, at the very worst Super Saiyan God, but realistically Super Saiyan Blue. And they don't even have Ki at all. I mind it less with androids compared to organic fighters, because the androids are sort of like a cheat code, right? They're reverse engineered versions of human and Saiyan fighters, basically organic fighters. They take that data and they're able to mimic it into machinery, right? That's how technology seems to work in Dragon Ball. You can reverse engineer basically anything to make it a better version of itself. Look at Dr. Brief taking the Saiyan pod and turning it into that big ship. Goku takes the Namek, right? You can reverse engineer this stuff. So that's fine. But still, no representation for God Ki there. And the other big character in that movie, Gohan, has first his ultimate form. Now, if you're a Dragon Ball Super manga reader, I believe there's no reason to believe that Ultimate Gohan is close in power to Blue Goku and Blue Vegeta, like there is in the anime version, where the narrator directly states that Ultimate Gohan and Goku rival each other, though clearly Blue Kaioken is stronger. But even in the Dragon Ball Super manga, you can't deny that Ultimate Gohan, with a couple of years of off-screen training for the most part, is rivaling Blue Goku and Vegeta in Ultimate when he goes to rescue Pan, since he's doing better against the Gammas than Piccolo was, right? And the Gammas are supposed to be on this Goku Vegeta tier arbitrarily, which should again mean Super Saiyan Blue. So that's just an old transformation that's catching up to the power of these God Ki transformations that are after years and years of training, by the way. We are way past Resurrection F levels of power for Goku and Vegeta. And then you get Beast Gohan, which is not only rivaling the God Ki transformations themselves, but the God Ki godly technique transformation, seemingly on a level near, at least. Whether you think it's above or below, I don't really give a shit for this video. But Beast Gohan is clearly near the level of Ultra Instinct Goku, which is near the level of Ultra Ego Vegeta in some capacity. Again, whichever one you think is stronger, weaker. I think Goku's probably stronger, but still. Both of them are these godly techniques they had to learn from a god of destruction, an angel, divine beings, only one of each in the universe. And Beast Gohan just sort of happens. It doesn't even have God Ki, and God Ki is just such a weird concept in Dragon Ball because it's so underutilized in every single aspect. Like, okay, we went through all the main cast that don't have God Ki. At least there's going to be a little bit of God Ki or God energy or God power, divine power. I can't remember the translation, or at least the phrasing in maybe even Japanese in the Dragon Ball Super manga changes a lot in the Moro arc for this type of energy. But at least Oob had some of that juice in him, and it was like supposed to be a big deal. So it seems like it could still play a part. Maybe Toyotaro will come in and save God Ki. I would love that. Toyotaro, my blessing to you if you can manage that. But it does seem like at this point, it's almost unsalvageable, because who even has God Ki on the villain side of things, right? We already went over Frieza, and talking about not just villains, antagonists in general. In the Tournament of Power, you have Toppo, and that's it. In the manga, I think Toppo uses his God Ki just like in his base form. He doesn't transform or anything. But in the anime, of course, he turns into this like God of Destruction form, whatever. They both use some form of divine Ki. Great, but that's it. Out of 80 fighters, 70 of which not being Universe 7, only one, as far as I can remember, uses God Ki. Okay, arc before that, Goku Black and Zamasu. Great, God arc. Okay, cool. We have 2 God Ki users. Fantastic. We're using them there, but it's not used to great effectiveness, right? In the Dragon Ball Super manga, and I guess even the anime to some point, Zamasu is garbage, right? He's like trash tier compared to the main fighters of that arc. He is not competing. He is not putting in work. Goku's like, yeah, Trunks could handle you. It's not great. And Trunks is like using Super Saiyan 2 in the manga, you know what I mean? He's just a nothing figure. So even him having God Ki doesn't help the case. It'd actually be better if he didn't have God Ki, and him activating his God Ki or learning to use more of his God Ki made him strong enough to compete, maybe. I don't know. Super Saiyan Rage Trunks is actually another thing to think about, because Super Saiyan Rage Trunks is like not God Ki, maybe. Possibly it's a God Ki infused. No one knows, because no one will fucking explain it. Then before that, you have the Universe 6 tournament, where Hit doesn't have God Ki. I guess that's the only one that matters. Everyone else is relatively weak compared to Goku and Vegeta, of course, but Hit being able to even compete against people with Super Saiyan Blue is kind of yikes for God Ki as a concept. Again, this is the 3rd arc after it was quote unquote introduced. You know, obviously the movies came out first, but the retellings are the same thing, right? It's not extra time. You get what I mean. And those are just the villains in the Dragon Ball Super anime. If we talk about things like the manga-only villains, I don't think Granola or Gas were stated to use God Ki. They use some godly techniques like a form of destruction, or it looks like Hakai, right? Destruction, but no God Ki as far as I'm aware. And I think Moro may have been stated. I just could be misremembering. I'm doing this off the cuff, so I'll put something on screen if I'm right or wrong. Moro, when he copied Meris's abilities, was using God Ki. So that's something, but that was more so him copying Ultra Instinct and Angel Power than specifically using God Ki to amp himself up further. And then, of course, Broly doesn't use God Ki at all to this day, and Cell Max didn't use God Ki at all. So for me, God Ki is one of these weird things, especially when it comes to the main cast at this point. Because it's clear to me at this point, the intention is for everyone to have their own path of power. Gohan is going down the ultimate, I guess, human route of his own power growth. Broly is controlling Super Saiyan and his own mutated genes. Vegeta is going down the Destroyer path. Goku is going down the Angel path. Piccolo is going down a Namekian path of some sort. And we kind of have these many roads that we can look at these characters evolve and grow and change over. So I wonder if the reason God Ki is kind of ass and kind of a nothing power and a nothing addition to the world of Dragon Ball is because ultimately, at the end of the day, it would limit how characters could be diversified from each other. Now, you could argue Piccolo or maybe Gohan could have God Ki in their forms, maybe have Gohan go down the Kai route, maybe have Piccolo go down the Kami route. But realistically, there's not a need to force God Ki in. It is possible to clearly have diverging paths with God Ki, as shown by Goku and Vegeta, but if everyone has a diverging path via God Ki, maybe it would feel a bit worse. It's very possible this was a decision for the best at the cost of a cool thing in the series that could have been potentially better utilized. I will say one final thing about God Ki. People talk about God Ki sort of coming out of nowhere. And yes, it was a new concept, clearly, for Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods. But the concept has some basis in the manga itself, with Shin and Kibito specifically having a type of energy that couldn't be used for Buu's revival, with Shin and Kibito being hard to gauge their power and sense them and understand who or what they are, from Piccolo being able to tell from just barely interacting with the Supreme Kai that he was a Kai of high status. He thought he was the Dai Kaio, the Grand Kai, but he turned out to be the Supreme Kai, the one above the Grand Kai. So it is interesting to note that God Ki actually has its roots in the manga, was expanded on for things like Battle of Gods, Resurrection F, and to some degree even continues to be expanded to this day with things like Destruction and Ultra Instinct to be something a bit more than it was in the original manga and even more than it was back in 2013. It still feels hollow, it still feels underexplained, and it really feels not only underutilized, but also really kind of unnecessary at moments when you see characters achieving these levels of power and efficiency and technique without needing the use of God Ki at all. But I think that's all I want to say about that. See you later.